I'm Mark Crory, the Executive Director for Littleton Community Television. I'm very happy to be here with Barbara Wickham, Jackie Zegowitz from See a New Sun. That is a suicide awareness program that is kind of based right here in Littleton, where the headquarters are. Barbara, thank you for being here. Jackie, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You know, honestly, even though the organization is great, I wish it didn't exist.
Oh,
And I'm sure you do too.
absolutely.
You know, but I'm glad you do, you know. And in just looking up some statistics, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. In 2018, there were 48,344 Americans that died by suicide. Fortunately, if you're looking at trying to find a bright side, Massachusetts ranks 48th out of the 50 states as far as suicides per 1,000 people, and that's at 8.7. And the highest, just FYI, is Montana at 26. And the national average per 100,000 people is 13.4. Obviously, both of you have been affected personally by this. I know your son Brian, you know, we grew up together. And also, Jackie, you had a brother who...
I did.
Yeah, what was his name?
It's Michael Dubois. He was an English teacher at Lowell High School.
And you said that this week is an anniversary of sorts of his...
Yes, it was his 7-year anniversary this past Sunday, February 2nd.
Yeah. Well, my condolences still to you and your family for that.
Thank you.
Barbara, tell us, you know, we did a show with you probably 10 years ago. And like I said, I hoped we'd never have to do another show, but here we are again, and the statistics, unfortunately, nationwide are still rising.
Yes. They are.
Tell us some things about, first of all, See a New Sun, and we know why you got involved, but tell us what kind of things do you do, and just for people who might be watching, what are we looking for to help people? You know, what kind of signs are there that someone may be in trouble?
Okay. You said something about starting first? See
Yes.
a New Sun? Yes. We started because of Brian, and we talked to quite a few people, and you know, it was said that something like this would be needed, especially at the grassroots level, because the larger organizations are all wonderful, but a lot of people don't know how to get a hold of them. So that's why we began, and you have to go through a whole lot of stuff to get your 501c3, and you get a like a beginning temporary one that only lasts a certain time, and then you get the permanent 501c3, and that allows us to not have to pay taxes, which is pretty nice.
Sure, sure.
But our main goal is to really, our main goal is to stop this from happening, and we've been, but in reality, I hate to say it, but I doubt very much that we'll ever stop it. But to cut down the numbers would be absolutely wonderful, and that's what we hope to do. Massachusetts, if I remember correctly, is a tiny bit less.
Yeah, 48th.
Yeah.
And it's quite a bit less. And
Yeah.
maybe it's because of organizations like yours that we have here in the state that people can look to and turn to for help.
Well, you know, we're there to help in any way. I answer phone calls from anyone. You know, as far as I'm concerned, they don't have to be in Littleton. Just to have someone to talk to that they would like to talk to, because they know, I mean, my family's been very, very open about the suicide right from the beginning. And we couldn't be any other way. So I think that helps, and that does give somebody a resource if heaven forbid it happens in their family, whether they're close family or relatives or friends anywhere, because it's very, very hard on families and friends, and it's hard to understand why. And that's what you go through for a long time, trying to understand the why. And then after a while, you come to the conclusion that you probably never know the real why. But
So how many years since Brian?
Brian has, he 20 years.
20 years.
20
Wow.
years, yep.
And so shortly after his death, you started this organization.
Yeah,
right?
about 2 years. I actually talked with my minister one day, and I said, you know, I think it would be good if we could start something to help others. And of course he said, go to it, Barbara. And he said, I'll help you all I can. So got some friends of Brian's, good friends from high school and later in his life, and we got together and decided to get something going. Didn't have a clue, to be honest with you, of 501c3s and how you go about that, but we had some help from a local lawyer and her assistant. So that was a good lot of help there. And so our first meeting, we just, actually we had our first meeting before anything to do with this 501c3. But then we found out more about it, and so we went to the lawyer to find out how you go about getting it. And her paralegal drew up the paperwork for us, and we've been doing it ever since. You get a temporary sort of 501c3 for a while, and then if they feel that you're doing what your statement said that you would want to do, then you get the permanent one. And it actually is about 6 or 7 years later when you get the permanent.
Okay.
But we could do all the same things with the other one.
So you've been the president for 18 years of this.
I have not
group?
been the president
No.
for the whole time. Well, 18 years, not quite. Since, well, actually, Tim, my son, was president for a
okay.
while. And then I took it over. And before him, Donnie Lawrence. And but I've been doing it now for a good long time.
All right. Which leads us to Jackie. Jackie, you're going to be taking over for Barbara's role, maybe as president?
I am.
Yes.
I am taking over. Not sure I'm going to fulfill her shoes as well as she does. But we have a lot to go over, and I have a lot to learn.
Do you live in town here?
I don't. I live in Westford.
Okay.
I'm originally from Lowell, which is where my brother is from
Sure.
as well. Yeah, I've been involved in the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I'm a part of a small group in Westford, Team Forever Young. We raise funds for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And I wanted to get more involved. I didn't want to just raise money. I mean, I know it's going towards a great foundation, but I'm hoping to get a little more involved and to learn from Barbara what her foundation has given to so many elementary schools, high schools,
Mostly middle schools and high schools.
mostly middle schools and high schools. Yeah, and she holds a support group too,
Yes.
2 days a week?
No, it's 2 times
Two
a month.
times a month, okay, okay.
Yep.
So I hope to learn from you,
I hope so.
Well, she's-
get more
I'm
involved.
sure
yeah.
she will. She's a good teacher. I have a friend who recently lost a brother from suicide, and you know, she says that it's something that you kind of never get over. You know, some people always say, well, just, you know, move on or whatever, but especially when it's suicide, it seems like the scars, you know, they don't quite heal 100%. And, you know, maybe you could talk to that a little bit. I'm sure that's probably, is that how you feel about this too?
I do. Yeah, the scars don't really, I mean, every year gets better. But I remember the first couple of years, it was super difficult for me. I shied away from friends, family. I have 3 kids, so I did my day-to-day thing just for them. But it took a couple years, and my kids they're super close with my brother. They didn't know why or how he died. So when I started getting involved in the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, I had to sit down with them again and explain to them, what had happened. So it was kind of revisiting the whole tragic event again.
Yeah.
And it's still 7 years later, and it's still difficult to talk about.
I'm sure it is. Well, let me talk to Barbara for a
sorry.
second. No,
I get too emotional.
You collect yourself. That's fine. Barbara, sometimes when somebody takes their own life, it's an act of passion or suddenness. You don't see signs. It's just something that maybe something happened quickly and they decided rashly to act. Mm-hmm. Other times there are signs, mm-hmm. right? Yep. Could you tell us what are some signs that people can look for if they notice?
I can, and I'm going to be sure I get them. So.
Okay.
Some of the warning signs, I think, is what you're looking for. And appearing depressed and sad most of the time. And to let you know that untreated depression is the #1 cause for suicide. Mm. And talking or writing about death and suicide, withdrawing from family and friends, feeling hopeless, feeling helpless, feeling strong anger or rage, and sometimes they have no idea of why that is, that those feelings are coming inside them. I feel trapped, like they can't get out of the situation. Have dramatic mood changes, but that's hard to tell because if you're dealing with a teenager, they have mood changes every day.
Right.
So, you can't tell. My son was 31, but in today's, this was 20 years ago, but in today's world, I'm told that 31 isn't very old.
No, it's
You're
not.
not really finished your, all of that stuff growing up in your head. And so, but he had a little boy, and, it was very sad for all of us to have him leave us, but leave his little boy.
So let's say somebody calls up, you probably get 2 types of calls, right? You would get a call from someone who's experiencing those things that you talked about, and also someone who's witnessing those things in somebody that they love.
Right.
What do you tell? Let's start with the person who's witnessing these things. What do you tell them? What kind of advice or hope or help do you give them?
It often is very difficult for the person that's calling, but I do recommend that they find a therapist right off. And oftentimes, people won't go.
Do you recommend some people for that as well, or do you just...
I honestly don't. I can tell you, to be honest with you, I still go, and I'm not ashamed of saying it or anything,
Sure.
because I think it's a good thing,
Oh.
and I want people to know.
Yeah.
So I go to someone in Leominster. She's very good, and if anybody really would like some help with her, they could get in touch with me. I can give them my phone number. Is that all right to do now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, my phone number is 978-486-4928. And I would be happy to talk with anybody on the phone and let them know who she is, where she is. And she was recommended to me by a time I had just retired from being the school nurse in Littleton. And so I went to our counselor. He was a special, real therapist type counselor, And he was in school, and he used to come down and talk to me and ask how things were going, if I thought there were any students that might need help. And so, of course, I called him, and I said, do you recommend, who do you recommend, or is there someone you recommend? And he gave me 3 names, and he told me about each person, and I chose one. And she won't mind if I say her name. Her name is Linda Simmons, and she is in Leominster. And she...
Does Linda work with both survivors as well
Yes.
as people who are
Yes.
experiencing the
Yes.
depression and the anxiety and all that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And she's, for me, she's been wonderful. And I mean, I have to tell you, I know this is maybe not suitable for a television program, but she's always given me a cup of coffee when I get there. And I'll tell you, I think in the beginning, she really felt that was helping me to get more comfortable, because I could hold that cup, in my hand, and
Yeah.
just like that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, you mentioned about a stigma, the stigma of going to a psychiatrist or
Oh, yes.
asking for help. In your brother's case, did you see any signs that he should have reached out to for help?
No, there were no signs. I think for Michael, it was if he would have just waited till the morning, things could have been so different. It was a one-time moment, and again, things could have been different.
Right.
I mean, for him, I don't know if I should get into detail or not, but for him, he was English teacher, well known. He worked out all the time. The students loved him. At his funeral, all of his students wrote us letters about him, and actually they wrote to him how they felt about what had happened. For him, he had a few drinks, made the wrong decision. He was driving, and he was arrested for DUI, and he called for a ride, and he told me he was humiliated. I'm so humiliated. I'm not even sure where to go from this point. And that night he took his life.
I understand that. That's kind of the example I was giving of people who a situation happens,
Yeah.
they don't think they
Yeah.
can deal with it, or the humiliation or shame or something, an arrest, and it just, in a spur of the moment, they're like, I just can't face people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're involved with See a New Sun now.
Me too.
Yeah, because
I'm
it's.
glad to.
I think you're going to run into people that have similar stories to you.
Absolutely.
And that you can help, and just your willingness to, I know it's a cliche, but people say if I can just save one life,
Absolutely.
and it makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
So, Barbara, we'll give the phone numbers and things like that. Were there other things that you wanted to bring out? I noticed you have a lot of notes here, but I kind of made you skip a few pages.
Well, that's
but-
okay. I think you already gave the statistics that are the newest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, the reason I wanted to come on, have you come on again, because it's been a while.
yes,
And, in recent news here in Littleton, these things they affect us here too.
oh,
And,
absolutely.
So I thought it was important for us to get the information out there. People, please, reach out for help. I know it's hard, and there may be some shame or some embarrassment, you might feel, but it is so much more to go through that than to the pain that, the loved ones that you leave behind. You are irreplaceable, and, reach out to See a New Sun. And Jackie, thank you for being here. Welcome to See a New Sun, and I wish you
Thank
luck.
you.
And I'm sure Barbara's not going to leave you in the lurch. I'm sure
No,
she'll
I
be
don't
right
think so.
there to help you
I'm
out.
going to stay with it for as long as I can, just to help them out. And
That's great.
I'm 82 years old, so it may be time for me to
82 years young.
82 years
That's
young.
right.
That's what it is.
You know, I know that we were saying names of therapists and things, but you know, things are very confidential
Yes.
with your organization. So,
Absolutely.
you know, again, just if you know someone that you care about, or maybe it's you yourself, want to give them a call, See a New Sun, because the name says it all. You want to be able to see a new sun.
That's
in the
exactly
morning,
right,
so-
and that's where the name came from.
Yep.
And we sat down for quite a while trying to think of a name that was appropriate, and actually several of the group at that time, and many friends of Brian's were involved, and family members, and they came up with it, really. I had no thought of what to call it, and I talked with other family members, and they felt it should not actually say the Brian Whitcomb Foundation. But that would be fine with me, but I think they felt that it was better to make it, I think See a New Sun can be more inclusive rather than all
Yeah.
friends of Brian's.
Right.
But,
I mean, the name is perfect to me as far as
oh, I think so too.
what encapsulates the mindset. You know, even you said if you just waited till the morning,
Exactly.
things see a new sun. You know.
Yeah, that's
So-
how,
Could've been
that's
so
why it
different.
had the name.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 Well, Barbara and Jackie, thank you so much.
Thank
I know
you.
it's difficult to have to bring up these things, you know, and talk about them.
But we need to.
But we need to, and it's so important that people like you get involved, who have personal stories to tell, and that people can relate to you, and that they can reach out, and you are somebody who can hold their hand and bring them through it. So,
So we never, I mean, to say it, I mean, we never expected that Brian would ever take his life. He did have some issues, which now in retrospect, I think if I had recognized some of those in the beginning, I mean, I did recognize that there were things that, you know, he didn't want to go to school anymore, but luckily enough, the principal at the high school said, you know, you can come back if you're feeling like you'd like to come back. So he did. He went back and graduated, which of course made us all happy. And then he was married to a wonderful person, and I just thought everything was going to be absolutely fine. And you know, he had a little boy, and had no idea that he was still feeling the way he did, which I now know that he did feel that way when he was growing up and when he was in school.
I guess that kind of stresses what you said earlier about getting the help early and
Absolutely.
seeing somebody, a psychiatrist, that can help you through
Yep.
these things and just check on you every once in a while, or just, you know, give you some balance in your life. Just,
Right.
it's important. So if, and you
Well,
know,
have your people, if they're young people, I don't know how you do it really, but encourage them that it's a good thing to do, and find someone who can really talk to young people. I mean, Brian was 31, but that's still a young person, and he didn't keep going. That was one of the problem. He said he didn't need that, and you know, what
Maybe
do
he did.
parents do at that point? You just keep trying, but then he seemed to be really good just before he got married, and so my husband and I thought the troubles were over.
well, those are one, I'm sure for people, survivors who are left behind, those questions are the ones that linger in your mind
Oh,
about,
yes.
could
Definitely.
we have done something, or could we have seen something more? And a lot of times the answer is no.
No, that's absolutely true.
You know?
Yeah.
And helping people to realize that and to deal with that and cope with that is another part of SANS, you know.
Yes, and that.
It's
and,
not your fault.
I did want to mention that I do facilitate what's called a Survivors of Suicide group, and it meets the second and fourth Monday every month. We meet in the a room at the Unitarian Church. And
On Foster Street? in
Yes,
case
on
you don't know where
Foster
that is.
Street, and it's not a religiously affiliated group. I mean, we have people that don't have any religion to people who are very, very religious, and that's not a factor in them coming to the group at all. I just want them to know, some people think if it's in a church, that it's part of the church, and
Right.
I just don't want people to think that. And anyone that has had a loss by suicide, whether it's a friend, family member, brother, sister, whatever, anybody's welcome.
Yeah, I know we were wrapping up here, but it seems like
I know, we
there's
keep
one more
talking.
section. But Jackie, you probably would echo that too, of the importance of support groups, right? That you're not an island. Don't try to get through this alone. You know, this reach out.
No, reach out. It's good to talk about it.
That's right.
It's real good to talk about it. I didn't for a couple of years. It's not going to hurt. It'll only make it better. Slowly, but it works.
Well, lots of times, the first time someone comes to the group, I really say, you know, if you don't feel like speaking tonight, don't even think about it.
Right.
You know, just be here, and when you do feel like talking, we're here, and that's really worked very well. And we have a large group. Sometimes everybody doesn't come. Sometimes we have 2 or 3 new people, and if we do, then you know, the group that night is probably more focused on the new people and trying to help them and give them support. And that's what that's all about.
That's wonderful. That's
So-
great. I appreciate you ladies so much, and
Okay.
I appreciate you taking the time to come into our studio and to talk to me and you at home. So See a New Sun, as the credits roll here, we'll give their contact information again. And thank you for watching. Thank you both again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And have a good night.